美国时事通，我是罗文。
今天是2025年3月18号星期二。川普总统说今天他们要释放肯尼迪总统遇刺的档案哈。我看到了前 CIA 的一些资深成员的一些这个访问哈，他就说按他的理解的话，他不觉得是 CIA 中情局下令谋杀了肯尼迪总统，但是他绝对有深层政府的不作为和阻碍，最后导致刺杀。总之我们很快就可以看到结果了哈。同时我们昨天有讲到川普总统所谓违抗了联邦地区法官 James Boasberg 的命令哈，就是他命令川普总统把这个用军机送到萨尔瓦多的这些犯罪外国人，这些委内瑞拉的帮派分子送回来哈，所以这个果然引起了很大的争议哈。那所有的媒体都在讨论这个事。昨天有记者也问到川普总统，川普总统说那这个有没有违法或者违宪或者违抗法官的命令的话，你得问律师哈。但是这些人都是坏人。那昨天他的这个副幕僚长 Stephen Miller， 即使是左派也称为房间里最聪明的那个人，他就上了新闻详细的解释了为什么川普总统可以这么做。川普政府现在利用的是1798年国会通过的一个外国敌人法左派就攻击他说他有2点。第一个，这有100多年的历史了哈，你们用了一个这个 old law 100多年的历史，意思说为了把这些移民遣送出去，你们不惜动用老的法律。昨天边境沙皇 Harman 也面对这个问题，记者也问他说你们为什么动用了一个这么老的法律？然后 Harman 就说那宪法不是更老吗？我们还在尊重宪法呢。所以你看 Harman 简直是一个国家珍宝。我们可以看一下。
You say to those who claim you're using a 200-year-old law to circumvent due process?
An old law? Not as old as the Constitution. We still pay attention to that, don't we?
But some would say this is...
How many more terrorists do you plan on deporting to El Salvador?
实际上 Stephen Miller 应该是给川普找到理由动用这个1798年的外国敌人法的这么一个重要的推手哈。因为那据报道的话，他在过去的4年，也就是川普没有上任的这4年，他一直在苦心的研究这个1798年的外国敌人法，又为了准备这一刻的应用哈，他每天挑灯夜战研究这个18世纪的我们先父们定下来的法律和他使用的条款和为什么要使用这个，所以他每天挑灯夜战，有时候读到凌晨2点，终于出了成果哈。川普可以利用这一点，大规模的驱逐这些犯罪分子、非法移民、委内瑞拉的帮派分子。他在 CNN 上就详细的解释了说为什么川普总统可以这么做。然后左派就说第一，你是这么老的法律，那宪法比这个还更老，对吧？这个老不老没关紧要。然后第二个就说你只有在战争期间总统才能利用这一权利。他说不对，他说我们有3个条件，我的这个 X 上写得很清楚哈。然后记者又问他说那你这么说的话，那法庭的司法救济是没用的，那法官要他命令他停止，为什么他不停止？难道他可以违抗法官的命令吗？然后 Stephen Miller 也解释了说为什么，因为我们的总统是3军统帅，他已经在宣言里宣告得很清楚，委内瑞拉政府遣送了他们的黑帮帮派分子到我们国家来进行破坏，杀害无辜，强奸妇女，所以他对我们已经构成了威胁，对我们已经构成了入侵。在这样的情况下的话，我们必须要派军机遣返他们，所以要动用这个外国敌人法。然后记者还在纠缠，就说那你的意思就是说委内瑞拉国家和我们开战了吗？他说你没有在听我的话，我解释得很清楚这个法律是怎么样的。那现在法官在践踏川普总统作为3军总司令的权利。国务卿卢比奥和萨尔瓦多达成了一个外交协议，那现在法官在践踏，也同时在践踏他的外交协议。法官可以决定我们的外交部门和我们的军队吗？那法官可以决定对外的军方的派遣吗？全国有700多个法官，那每个法官都来出一个禁令的话，那川普总统怎么样执行他的总统行政权力？然后记者还在不依不休，就说那司法救济就是这样的，从最小的地方开始哈，一步步最后到高院。然后 Stephen Miller 就说如果是这样的话，那他根本就没有权利，这不是在司法救济管辖范围内的，因为这是川普总统作为一个3军统帅去抵御外敌的一个权利和对军方的权利，他作为3军统帅，而不是你一个法官是不可以插手军事的，这个是非常清楚的哈。所以最后记者就急了，就说那你的意思就是说高院在这个上面也没有花式权吗？他说这个案件如果打到高院，高院也会像以往一样支持川普的行政权利的。 我们可以看一下原话哈，这个原文非常的长，我知道有些观众不太喜欢原文视频的，那非常的抱歉哈，我觉得他说的肯定要比我说的精彩的100倍，所以我要把这个原文的视频给大家分享。
So you called the judge's order just earlier today, quote, patently unlawful, end quote, and said that it was an assault on democracy itself. Does that mean that the administration is ignoring this order, and might you ignore future court orders that meet the criteria you laid out?
The President of the United States and his administration reserve all rights under the Constitution to conduct national security operations in defense of the United States. The Alien Enemies Act, which was passed into law by the founding generation of this country, men like John Adams, was written explicitly to give the President the authority to repel an alien invasion of the United States. That is not something that a district court judge has any authority whatsoever to interfere with, to enjoin, to restrict, or to restrain any way. You can read the law yourself. There's not one clause in that law that makes it subject to judicial review, let alone district court review.
So, Stephen, when you say that this person has no authority at all, this is how our system works. It starts with these judges and then continues up. At what point does it become, in your view, legal for the justice system to be looking at this and making a judgment? And I fail to see how there's any other way but to start with where we're starting here before you get to eventually the Supreme Court.
Well, so first of all, there's a term in law, justiciable. This is not justiciable. In other words, this is not subject to judicial remedy. When the President is exercising his Article 2 powers to defend the country against an invasion or to repel a foreign terrorist that is unlawfully in the country, he's exercising his core Article 2 powers as Commander-in-Chief.
Is Venezuela invading the U.S.?
This is a very important point. This is a Title 50 authority. It's a Commander-in-Chief authority. So just to ask you a simple question, you talk about how the system works. Does a district court judge have the right to direct or enjoin troop movements overseas? Yes or no?
Well, Stephen, my question... If you could answer my question first,
in other words,
is Venezuela invading our country in a way that would apply this way?
So I'll answer yours and you'll answer mine. Under the terms of the statute, Tren de Aragua is an alien enemy force that has come here as detailed at length in the proclamation at the direction of the Venezuelan government. The statute says that a president has the ability to repel an invasion or predatory incursion that is directed by a foreign
state
government.
or a government, right? Are they a state or a government?
This would be, yes, it is documented that TDA was sent by the Venezuelan government in the proclamation. And here's an even more important point. Under the Constitution, who makes that determination? A district court judge elected by no one or the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy? The president and the president alone makes a decision of what triggers that determination.
So do you then think we are actually at war with Venezuela, the nation-state of Venezuela?
You're not hearing me and you're not understanding me. Read the statute. Alien Enemies Act, 1798. It says if a predatory incursion is perpetrated by a foreign government. So it lists three qualifying actions. It could be an act of war.
It does say in the very beginning there has to be a declared war against a nation or a state. That's what it says.
No, wrong. Look up the statute. It's on my account on social media.
That's actually where we found it earlier.
Yes. It says, or a predatory incursion, or an invasion. The statute delineates three criteria for triggering the Alien Enemies Act. One is an act of war, which, by the way, an invasion is an act of war, but put that aside. One is an invasion, which this is. One is a predatory incursion, which this is. So it actually meets all three statutory criteria, but with respect to this particular statute, the proclamation is utilizing the incursion and invasion language in the statute. But this is a very important question, because no, hold on. It's a very important question. You said the way our system works is the President of the United States commands the armed forces of the country, commands the foreign policy of the country, and that's subject to district court review. That is fundamentally untrue.
I never said that, Stephen. I did not say...
That has never been true.
This was not a military operation.
A district court judge can no more enjoin the expulsion of foreign terrorists to foreign soil that he can direct the movement of Air Force One, that he can direct the movement of an aircraft carrier, that he can direct Marco Rubio to engage in diplomacy in a country or not.
Do you think the Supreme Court has any say over this or not? Like, does the Supreme Court of the United States have any say over the things that you were just outlining right here?
I believe what the Supreme Court will say is what I just said, which is that the president's conduct here is not subject to judicial review.
Okay, but you are acknowledging that they do, in fact, have a say here, even though you think they may agree with you.
What we are expecting is the Supreme Court to say what has always been the case, which is when the president is using his powers as commander-in-chief, those determinations are not subject to judicial review. In other words, the president's designation of Nicaragua as a foreign terrorist organization and as an alien enemy are part of his inherent plenary authority. There is no way.
At what point in the system, Stephen,
how are you going to expel?
Power?
How are you going to expel illegal alien invaders from our country who are raping little girls, who are murdering little girls, if each and every deportation has to be adjudicated in a district court judge? That means you have no country. It means you have no sovereignty. It means you have no future. It is fundamentally incompatible to have a country and have individual expulsions adjudicated by a single district court judge.
I'm just trying to figure out at what point in the system do you, because what does the Trump administration believe? Because we do have separation of powers in this country. I hear what you're saying.
Yes,
you're saying
separation
the
of powers.
Court does not
this is the judiciary
have authority.
Interfering
Stephen,
in
let me finish.
the executive function.
Let me
that
finish.
is the separation of powers. That is the separation of powers.
Did you ignore the judge's order here because you thought you could?
So the judge's order and the actions taken by the Departments of Defense, Justice, and Homeland Security are not in conflict. And the Department of Justice has been clear that they are not in conflict. But
so you think that you did go along with the order that the judge put out? You do not think that the Trump administration defied this order?
As the Justice Department said, there is no conflict between the judge's order and the actions taken by the departments I just listed. But I'm making a deeper and more fundamental point.
Yeah.
The district court
if you don't have to follow it, why didn't you?
The district court has no ability to in any way restrain the president's authorities under the Alien Enemies Act or his ability to conduct the foreign affairs of the United States. Let me paint a picture for you. President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio had engaged in intensive diplomacy to obtain a bilateral security agreement with the nation of El Salvador. If a district court judge can join that bilateral security agreement, then we do not have a democracy.
Stephen, you've made your argument.
We do not have a foreign policy.
We've heard you say this. Did you ignore, did the administration ignore the order from the district judge? It's a simple question.
I've answered it. I've answered it because the Department of Justice has made a filing in the court. But let me make another point. The judge, in this case, put the lives of every single person on those aircraft at risk. Did he know how much fuel was in those planes? Did he know the flight conditions? Did he know the weather conditions? Did he know how many crew hours? Did he know the need for crew rest? Did he know any of that? No. This judge violated the law. He violated the Constitution. He defied the system of government that we have in this country.
Because that does seem to be what you're arguing.
These same district court judges didn't do a thing to stop Joe Biden from flooding this nation with millions of illegal aliens. These district court judges didn't issue any injunctions to save the lives of Jocelyn Hungary or Laken Riley or anyone
the federal courts? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that what you said, there's a separation of powers. The judiciary exercises judgment and relief.
I don't speak for the White House. You are here to speak
I will do.
You're here to speak for the White House.
I
just want you to answer that one simple question.
I am. Ready? Here we go. Under a proper reading of the Constitution, district court judges provide relief to individual plaintiffs seeking relief. District court judges do not have the authority, as a general matter, to enjoin the functioning of the executive branch. But their authority is at its lowest point when the president is exercising his powers as commander-in-chief. And I asked you a question, you never answered it. Can a judge enjoin troop movements overseas? Can a district court judge enjoin troop movements overseas?
Stephen,
yes or no?
I am not going to get into the
just say no, and then you'll know that I'm right.
This is a
just
separate
say no,
question,
and you'll know that
Stephen.
I'm right.
Okay, we're not talking about other troops overseas. I need to ask you about something else.
The president issued a proclamation delineating in detail how the Venezuelan regime sent this gang, this terrorist organization, to our shores. And by the way, and I love being here, but all the outrage that we are seeing from the Democrat Party and from the corporate media None of that outrage was expressed when little Jocelyn Nungare was tortured and beaten
Stephen,
to death. None of that outrage was expressed when our nation was flooded by illegal aliens.
I have just been simply trying to get a simple answer to a simple question. No outrage necessary about whether or not the White House is ahead of the court.
But I am.
But okay, I need to ask you one more question. I'm going to have to let you go.
Democrats defending Trinidad instead of celebrating President Trump expelling these terrorists from our midst. And I'm glad for the opportunity to explain how the separation of powers does work. If the president has to litigate every national security action with 700 district court judges, then we don't have a functioning democracy.
那所以可以看到 Stephen Miller 4年磨一剑哈，终于帮川普拿到了非常大的一个 tool， 遣送外国犯罪分子的非常好的工具。那同时，所以 Stephen Miller 也好，还是 Homan 也好，才是真正我们国家的 national treasure， 我们国家的珍宝。川普总统庆幸有了他们的支持，那美国人民更庆幸有他们，他们才是真正的美国精英中坚力量的代表。OK， 这是今天的播报，感谢您的收看，加油。